Hey everybody, I'm back for another melody video. So this time we're going to be talking about some ways to make simple melodies a little bit more interesting, and we're going to try to leave all the technical music theory out of it. Now our goal is to take a simple idea and evolve it into something a bit more advanced. So with that said, it's still helpful to start with that simple idea because you never want to try and do too much right off the bat. If you start to feel overwhelmed at the beginning, just remind yourself to build slow. Remember, it's the first stage of the production, so you don't have to play it all live. I don't like to put that pressure on myself, so a lot of times I like to start my concepts just by poking away at the keyboard. Let's play something in real quick. You may have heard me talk about using white keys to our advantage before, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'll click here, hit Command A to select all, hit Q to quantize, and these ones jump to the wrong spot because I was a bit off there, so we'll just drag them over. And for the time being, we're just going to leave it as a 2-bar loop, and we'll get to the rest of that in a minute. So if your melody is feeling a little too robotic, it's common to try and add more notes, but rather than adding more, sometimes it helps to take away some. This can help add some groove and unpredictability because sometimes a little pause is a good thing. The goal here isn't just to fill in all the gaps with more notes, it's to try and make use of those gaps. In our case, we're going to do a little bit of both, and I'm going to slide some notes to the left or right to create some groove like I said. Alright, pretty nice. Now let's say you have an interesting 2-bar melody like this, but it gets to be too repetitive when you loop it. You can try changing around some notes in the second loop, essentially making it a 4-bar loop. And if this is still too repetitive, you can try changing more in the second loop again to create an 8-bar loop. You can repeat this as needed, but I find that usually 8 bars is about good. I'll show you what I mean. We're going to hit Command R to repeat. We're going to join this by hitting J. Now I changed the second half of that loop, so it's not just a 2-bar loop anymore, it's a 4-bar loop. And then like I said before, if we need to do that again, Command R to copy that loop, extend this, and then we can change this loop now. Alright, so now we have an 8-bar loop. Let me play it through. It kind of tells more of a story now. Now let's talk about blending different sounds together. Think of each sound as an individual person playing it. Everyone has their own job and it comes together to make a much more intricate piece. A lot of times when blending different sounds together, the goal is to spread those sounds over the frequency spectrum. That's why it's common in a typical band to have like bass for low frequency, guitar for mid frequency, and maybe some keys for a higher frequency. This way the whole spectrum is being occupied evenly. You'll usually want to choose sounds that have different qualities, but let's say you want 2 bell sounds playing different melodies, but they're clashing. In this case, you can try raising one of them up or down an octave, and this will allow you to keep both sounds while still keeping them out of the way of each other. Now let's talk about some of the types of sounds that can usually fit together. A common instrument setup is to have a main melody like we do here, and maybe some supporting chords for a bit of bounce, and then a pad of some sort in the background, just to kind of back it all up. In some cases this may be more than enough, but in others it may not be enough. That's completely up to you, but it's your job to keep in mind what purpose the production will have. If it's for an artist, you'll want to leave them some space for their vocals to shine, in which case less is more. Now I just chose some random presets for the melody, the chords, and the pad, but my melody and chords are actually the same patch. Let me show you real quick. Let's create a quick example using all these instruments. Since we already have the main idea down with the melody, it just kind of needs some support behind it to help the melody shine. So here's our melody sound. Here's our chords sound. And then here's our pad. Alright, so I'm just going to keep it simple then, but I am going to lower these chords down just 1 octave. Just like that. Now I'm going to hit Shift R since I didn't hit record. That'll recall our last playthrough. Now I'm going to highlight all once again. I'm going to hit Q to quantize. And then I'm just going to repeat that using Command R. Now let's have a listen. Now as I said before, I'm going to be moving things to the left and right just to give it some groove. Let's see which ones we can move here. Let's try this one right here. Maybe this one as well. Now there's really no rhyme or reason to the way I'm doing this. I'm just kind of listening and feeling out where I would want chords to happen. Alright, I like that. Now to fill in some of the background, we're going to use this pad to our advantage. We're pretty much just going to use the same chords, so as a matter of fact, I'm just going to copy that down by holding Option and dragging. Now a cool little shortcut I like to use is Shift \. That will just drag each note out until the next one begins. Now it seems a little bit low and muddy, so let's select all, hit Option Shift up arrow, and we'll see how this sounds. That's just moving it up an octave. I think I like that a little bit better. Now to stay organized, since we Option drag this down, it copied the same name, and this isn't the same instrument. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the region that we want to rename, and then we're going to hit Shift Option N to name, and that's going to name it whatever the track is. So let's hit Command R to repeat, and let's listen to what we have. And from here on out, you can pretty much mix your volumes how you want them to be. Maybe we'll turn that down a bit since it's going to be in the background. And then we'll have our chords pop out a little bit. Something kind of like that. Now, like I said, not all sounds are going to fit together, so it takes your musical ear to know which ones will work with each other and which ones will clash. Sometimes the only way to know that is by trying, but this is just my typical formula for success. Now, you probably noticed that I left the bass track in here, and that's just so we can have a little bit of fun. Every track needs some bass in it, right? So let's just record something that pretty much just outlines these chords, which I'm thinking is going to be... those three notes. Yeah, just like that. Same thing, highlight all, hit Q. That one snapped to the wrong one because I'm terrible with timing. Now let's hear it. Command repeat, and there we go. That pretty much sums it up. If there's any questions on some stuff that I didn't cover, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.